Welcome back. You're watching Credlin. I'm Rowan Dean. I spoke earlier about the transgender controversy involving the Liberal candidate for Warringah, Catherine Deves. Outrageously, but I suppose unsurprisingly, Catherine Deves' hopeless opponent, Green Left independent Zali Steggall, is calling for Catherine Deves to be disendorsed, all because she had the temerity to raise important questions about the ethics, and indeed the specifics, of what is involved in so-called gender affirmation surgery, meaning, of course, the removal or adding on of sexual organs. Catherine Deves referred to this as, quote, mutilation. Everyone got very upset, but certainly an emotive description. As for its accuracy, well, you can make up your own mind about that. Not everyone is joining the Catherine Deves lynch mob. Dianna Kenny is a former professor of psychology at the University of Sydney and an expert on child gender dysphoria and related issues. She joins me now from Sydney. Dianna, great to see you. How are you?
Thank you. I'm well.
Now, Dianna, just give us a little bit of your background.
Well, I was an academic at the University of Sydney, specialising in developmental psychology and the disorders of childhood for 31 years. And I've recently left the institution and gone into full-time private practice where I have a specialisation in childhood gender dysphoria, and I work with children, adolescents and their families in working through some of the very significant issues that some of these young people are experiencing.
Okay, Dianna, so what do we know about, I guess, the effectiveness of so-called gender affirmation surgery? And without going into all the specifics and details, what is involved?
Look, gender affirmation surgery is the end point in a whole line of gender affirmation, so-called, which generally starts with the declaration of a young person saying that, they don't feel as if their identity is consistent with their natal sex. And then if parents accept that at face value, they move into what's called social transition, where the child chooses a new name and pronouns and sometimes will change their physical appearance and their clothing. And if they continue along that path, they may be prescribed puberty blockers to stop the natural process of puberty that occurs between the ages of about 9 and 13. And if they persist with that part of the process, they can then be placed on what's called cross-sex hormones, so feminising hormones for young people who are male to female, and masculinising hormones such as testosterone for female to male. Only a small portion of young people progress to what's called gender affirming surgery.
And what's involved in that?
Well, gender affirming surgery is extremely serious, complicated surgery that carries a very high rate of complications. Up to 35 to 40% have significant problems with the surgery. And of course, the surgery doesn't achieve its goal, which is to create the organs of the opposite sex of the body into which those young people were born. So it's an attempt to mimic either a phallus or a vagina in a young person born with either, a penis.
And we also have mastectomies for girls, presumably. Is there any significant dissent in the medical community about these practices, Dianna?
Well, there's a surge of concern around the world, and just very recently, countries like Sweden and Finland have put a wholesale ban on any gender-altering medical treatment of young people under the age of 18. The UK is also, considering such moves. And there's actually been a swing away from this automatic affirmation that the transgender lobby has been pushing for more than a decade. it's taken a lot of time, but they've been relying on very faulty so-called research. It's, and there's this guideline called the World Guidelines for the Treatment of Gender Dysphoric Young People that claim that these treatments are safe and that they in fact are life-saving. And now there are hundreds of scientists and psychologists and therapists around the world saying that the research upon which these claims have been based are seriously flawed, and a number of countries are re-examining the whole issue.
So Dianna, Catherine Deves, who we mentioned before, has been copping a lot of flack. Her main beef is about transgender women, i.e. biological men, in sports, in female sports. Do you think she's being treated unfairly in the criticism?
Look, anybody who has the temerity to question the trans lobby is treated very harshly in the media, and anybody who has opinions contrary to the dominant paradigm, which is automatic gender affirmation, is treated very harshly. I think there's a correct way of expressing alternative views, and perhaps her views were a little intemperately expressed. But we do need to have this debate. It's a very important debate. It's affecting the lives of tens of thousands of young people, and we do have to hear both sides of the argument.
And Dianna, would you agree with Catherine Deves and the Save Women's Sport lobby that there is a problem with transgender women, i.e. biological men, competing against girls and women?
There is a very serious problem with it, and that's because male and female sports were developed to provide equity to males and females in competition. Now, females have only been participating in competitive sports since 1900. So it hasn't been for a very long time that women have claimed a space for themselves in competitive athletics and swimming and all kinds of sports. And it is without doubt that a trans woman does have an advantage over a natal woman in competition, because testosterone confers an advantage in muscle strength and endurance, also in hemoglobin, which carries oxygen around the body. And so these are, testosterone is a performance-enhancing drug, and all other forms of performance-enhancing drugs are banned in sports.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a very difficult debate because...
It's a fascinating debate, Dianna. We're going to have to leave it there. We're running out of time, but it sounds to me that Catherine Deves is certainly within her rights to be raising these questions from a scientific point of view, as well, of course, as a political one. Dianna Kenny, thanks so much for coming on Credlin this evening. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So there you go. If you're a voter in Warringah, ask yourself this: who are you going to support, and who are your friends going to support and your family going to support? A candidate who wants to safeguard little girls, or a candidate who wants to terrorize little girls about climate change? Your decision.